Okay, here we go. I think we are finally cooking. And I'm going to try to share my screen here. And Brad, you may see copies of yourself as we go, but want to be able to record everybody for our website so that we can post things like we're supposed to here. Keep this. All right. So as we get started today, and I'm going to try to put this where it's doing not. Giving us just Larry for right now. So we've got
Smile.
Hi, Brad.
right. But I promise everyone is here. Let me see if I can back this up. No, that's not going to work either. All right, we're just going to do as good as we can. And as people are talking, we'll move you from Larry. Does that sound okay? All right. All right. So to start, I want to call the meeting to order, and we have our minutes from last meeting, which was in March. Any edits to the meeting minutes from our last meeting? Should be, yeah, the second page there.
Not that I noted.
Okay. If there are no edits, does anyone want to vote to approve the minutes from last meeting?
So moved.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of approving the last minutes meetings? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Nope. Okay. So last meeting's minutes are approved, and I will confirm that on our website, so they're posted there. Lana is here with us today, and she's going to go over a budget change and some of the like precursor budget information for 2027. Before she does that, I wanted to just kind of bring everyone's attention to what the audit that we got from 2020 to 2024, which led us to have to make some changes to the budget from this year, and which is going to be really important to moving forward. So I did print out a copy. I only did a couple copies of this because it is pretty lengthy. But in here, one of the areas, and I highlighted there are four main areas that the State Board of Accounts asked us to create an action plan or a corrective action plan for. One of those was our fund sources and uses. So the final area that's highlighted, which is, quite a few pages back, and it says fund sources and uses. And sorry, Brad, I didn't send this a copy out of this, but it was in the body of the email that I sent out in May. They indicate that our funds are supposed to be directed into three separate accounts. We have a general fund and a motor vehicle highway fund, and then a special component of that fund that's more restricted. And so there's information in there about what the restrictions are for those funding sources, which is what we'll let Lana to kind of go through our budget and need to make some changes. So I wanted to give that precursor because that was really what led off some of the things that we're going to talk about today, and specifically the budget related stuff. So is that helpful?
Yeah,
Did I
that's
go over
helpful.
everything
Yeah.
okay.
And does Brad have a copy of this budget file?
No, I don't think I sent a
Can
copy of
you
that
like share
either.
your screen?
Yes,
Open it?
should be
Share
able
your screen.
to. Brad, you're seeing my screen. Are you seeing any?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me pull that budget file up here. And sorry, I was going through quite a few
No, it's okay.
things here. So let me make sure I have the right one pulled up. Okay, so Brad, it's on the screen now.
Okay, so I created this little file just to sort of walk everybody through kind of where we are and then where we think we're going. So the first three columns are the 2026 budget. So it's the budget that we did for this year. And we had assumed that we would have about 3493 of revenue, and that was just based on the prior years. And then we had all these expense items, office supplies, 501c3, mailboxes, et cetera, about 6350 of expense. We did have the $4,000 for the radar speed sign in there. And so we had a total of $10,000. So we knew we were going to be at a loss this year, but we had plenty of cash. So that was kind of the plan. 6857 was going to be our loss. Through June 30th, what we really have had, because we've had this change in funding, and we've had to move dollars that's coming in into these special accounts instead of our general account, what we really have is $118 year to date in revenue instead of, quite a bit more than that. And I would expect that we'll probably be at 750 at the end of the year. A lot of the dollars come in second half of the year. And then if you look down in the second and third column there, I've got what we've spent money on so far this year, which was AIM dues, mailbox. What was that miscellaneous? It was something I just did. Training.
Yeah, training. Yeah.
Training for the thing, and then my surety bond. So we've spent about $1,000. So as it is, we're going to be spending, or we're going to be more like 833 in the red instead of 6,800. As we look towards next year, we need to understand that what the money that's coming in is about $800 a year now that we can actually spend on anything, not thousands. And if you look at the cash down below, I did a cash analysis. So again, this is looking just at the cash in our account. At 12/31/25, we had 31,854, and that was between our checking account and our savings account. And we had it all as unrestricted because that's what we thought it was. What it really is we have at this point, we have about 10,000 in unrestricted, but we have 22,000 in these restricted highway funds. So as I look towards next year's budget, if we make next year's budget similar to what we think this year is going to end up like, then I showed there that at the end of 27, we'll have maybe 11,000 unrestricted and 24,000 in restricted. So I guess the whole point of this is we don't have nearly as much money coming in as we thought, and we don't have as much money in our cash account that's unrestricted as we thought.
One of the things that has always puzzled me about the restricted fund, and the DGL told us we didn't have to do it, is the things that they designate you can spend it on, we don't do. We don't do road repairs. We don't do all the kinds of things, painting stripes on the road and all that kind of stuff. So what's the purpose?
I
Yeah.
thought that's where we allowed for the radar sign and the mailboxes.
Well, we did, but we didn't. I never set up a restricted fund because
Yeah.
we were told not to do it.
And
so it was all the money. There are basically two funds, checking and savings. And so the numbers look very, very different. So what happens long term to that restricted account if there's nothing in there that we can spend it on?
so we can't spend it on the mailboxes and the radar sign. And I think the drainage was also.
We did use that money for the drainage, but it's not on the list that they documented here.
I think the mailboxes it doesn't fall on the list.
Right.
Their speed sign might be.
I think we could make the speed sign work, but that would be in this. So then even the restricted fund is broken into two funds. One of them is restricted for certain items, and I printed off a page from the AIM guidebook. So it should be the next one after the budget page. And let me bring this up for you too, Brad, so
The one
that you
with the
can see
highlights
what we're
on it,
looking.
right?
Yep, it's the one with the
Got
pink highlight at the bottom. And then there's there's information at the top there too. So it restricts it to, in the broader fund, you can use the revenue for construction, reconstruction, preservation, repair, maintenance, oiling, sprinkling, snow removal, weed and tree cutting, and cleaning of the roadway, right-of-ways, and streets and alleys, including curbs. The MVHA revenues may also be used for the purchase or lease of highway construction, preservation, and maintenance equipment, the purchase, erection, operation, and maintenance of traffic signs and signals and safety zones and devices, and the painting of surfaces in Indiana for the purposes of safety and traffic regulation. And then the next line goes into, or skip a line, and then it says at least 50%, and this is the further restricted fund, of the MVAH revenues distributed to municipalities must be used for the construction, reconstruction, and preservation of the city and town's highways. So in that statement, we can't use it for anything other than the preservation or construction of roads.
So if there's out on Cold Spring within the city or town,
Mhm,
there's a big pothole.
mhm.
Could we fill that?
It's not our
It's
road.
not our road.
Not our-
And I printed out, so I went and I've been doing a lot of digging to try to figure out what counts as roads, what are alleys, what could we potentially use this for? And there really are no good workarounds. So this is, I didn't print out lots of copies of this, but essentially they break down what percent or how many miles of roads fall within different jurisdictions. And within Marion County, there's a lot for Indianapolis, and it does break it down by included towns. So Wendell is on there as having like a mile and a half of road that is theirs. We don't have anything. So we really can't use it for road construction unless we decide to build a road somewhere, but I don't know what that would be. And then once we built it, we wouldn't be getting enough money every year to actually maintain it.
If Holcomb, turn our roads over to the town?
We could, but we would be ending up losing money from Holcomb because the town doesn't have enough money to pay for it in the long term. We're getting $2,000 a year essentially that we would be able to put toward these roads, which really isn't enough to maintain any
Anything.
amount of roads.
Could we do something on the Holcomb roads though, since they're within the town? Even
They're
if we don't?
private roads.
Just because they're private roads, okay.
And like even the stuff along Cold Spring is technically not our road, and it's been a nightmare to try to get approval to put up the sign on the right of way even to use some of the funds that we could use.
But
So
it does
those-
say we could maintain the right of way that with the,
Right, so we may be able to use it for areas along, but again, I don't know if that means we can maintain it without having to go through the city, because it isn't our right of way.
Right.
It's Indianapolis's right of way.
When you were reworking all this, did you talk to the attorney that they offer in the city?
I didn't know there was an attorney that was in the city.
Mhm.
I had worked with one who, well, his specialty was elections. And we went over and over the elections or the non-elections and the things that Springfield did. And he basically just said, everything's working fine.
You're so little.
Yeah, you're so tiny, it doesn't matter. So we never set up separate accounts for that. Knowing that we couldn't really spend the money.
Right.
Maybe after our 100th anniversary, we should cease to be a town.
Well, and that's something that I think we need to consider because it is at this point, and looking into this. So this audit, right? We got this audit and they came back with many things that we needed to address. And I don't know what guidance we have, but I don't feel good about saying, well, because we're so small, we don't have to follow these like codes or guidelines with public funds that are coming to us. It just doesn't really feel right to me to be doing that and saying that we have some kind of an exemption. But also the State Board of Accounts who audited us said, we don't care that you're small. We still, you're
You get-
required to have these things go to different accounts in order to be able to receive the funds. And then doing so has created kind of a bind in terms of using any of these funds.
Interestingly, though, they didn't make any comment about us using funds for mailboxes, using city funds for mailboxes.
I'm not sure if we
Did they?
submitted the receipts for that.
I mean, it says it on our budget.
Yeah.
It says mailboxes on our budget, but
But like there were
But yeah,
in the
maybe you're
back
right.
of that, there's like large expenses that they see that money was withdrawn, but then they're like, we don't have essentially receipts for them, is how I was reading it. But like on here in the very back, uh, there is kind of like the breakdown of costs. And so we had the general fund at the beginning of 2020, $90,000. There was $20,000 of disbursements, but only $4,000 of receipts. And then similarly at the end of 2020 to beginning of 2021, we had $74,000 and there were $42,000 of disbursements, but only $5,000 of receipts. So I'm guessing that was used for the mailboxes and for the drainage, but we didn't have, like, they didn't have the information about that, which is another thing that we got in the audit, was that we didn't have all of the
Receipts.
documentation to go along with the funds that we had expended. So I'm not sure how much they knew about what was being spent where to be able to say, no, that's not within the purview
Well,
of
as
these
for the
funds.
audit, we had to give them all the receipts that we had,
Yeah,
and there were receipts for all the drainage and the
it was all in
mailboxes.
there. So I'm curious what would have been the discrepancy, or like why they would have been like, no, we didn't have receipts for that.
No, the drainage is certainly more than $3,000 or $4,000.
Right, but this
So
is
it's
yeah.
like they didn't even.
include that,
Yeah.
or
Or didn't know they had them, or.
which that wouldn't surprise me, because after we submitted the corrective action plans, I got an email a month later and they said, we need you to submit these corrective action plans. Can you do so? And I was like, well, what about these receipts that I have for these corrective action plans? Was there something missing? And they said, oh, sorry, I didn't see those, disregard.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure we're an afterthought to them.
I,
We're
and
at the
I'm
very bottom of their list of
right.
craps to give about. But yeah,
And at the same time, I don't feel good about saying, well, they're not clearly paying that much attention. So we can kind of do this how we want to do it. You know, I
Is
think
there
there's
anybody
something-
to appeal to for an exemption for, or for approval for?
Get something in writing.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
As I was reading through the codes again, everything, any action would be taken by the State Board of Accounts, that if they notice something, it will be referred to the Department of DLGF or whatever it is. But it never said beyond that what was expected that they would do, because that was the group that reviewed and approved our budgets every year.
Right.
And they were happy. So,
Yeah. So like
I would
on-
think if we have an approved budget, then that is approving how we're expending funds.
but then why would we get this? I mean, it's kind of like one hand doesn't know what the other is
Well,
doing,
and
where,
that's what we experienced.
Yeah, they sit
Yeah.
across the aisle from each other and
Yeah.
don't talk.
right. But then when we get audited, we're not answering to DLGF, we're answering to SBOA.
Right.
And they're the ones that are gonna continue to, give us this pushback.
Yeah.
So it's kind of frustrating, and because we're so small, we also don't have
Yeah, it
or
also
retain.
depends who does the audit,
Yeah,
because the last audit was a very strict new person. The previous audit was somebody who had been doing it for years, and it was not a big deal, but again, it's individualized,
right.
but
Which
I know,
puts us
and then we
in,
paid $2,000 for this audit.
yeah, it was almost $2,800
yeah,
for
and
the
you saw
audit.
the letter that said this is not a bill. When the first one that came.
Yeah.
through,
Yeah.
Yeah, they said you don't have to pay for this, that Marion County's gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
So we didn't, and then 2 years later, is it 2 years?
Yeah,
Yeah,
almost 2
2 years.
years later,
They said we owe them the money for the audit.
which even the money for the audit then takes up the amount of money that we have in unrestricted funds for every year.
Right.
So, it's,
When we,
If you break
yeah,
it
when
down
we-
by-
when we look at the budget, if we get $750 that we can use and we pay our AIM dues of 607 and I get a surety bond
Yeah.
for my finance, that's the whole thing. There's no money to spend on anything else. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure I had to pay $50 for some training. I'm trying to get through some training, but I'm gonna try to not spend anymore, but
right.
I had to pay $25 for a notary the other day. I won't put that through. It was cash on the side anyway, so
Right.
I don't have a receipt.
And like, I think if we, and this is where it's really hard, because it does have it pretty explicitly laid out what you can spend money on for the motor vehicle highway fund. Like, I mean, I really don't see where mailboxes would fit into that. I think, again, because it's on the right of way, but it isn't our right of way, we're gonna have to get permission to do things on it, which has been a huge pain. So it really creates a
It's
lot
only the
of,
Cold Spring mailboxes too, because the internal ones are on private property.
right, but I think Rob paid for those ones.
Just pay for
Oh,
them.
he did.
Yeah, so we wouldn't be able to do that again.
Yeah.
you
No,
know.
we shouldn't need them for 10 years.
Right. Which would be about how long it would take for us to get enough money to replace the machine.
But really Holcomb should be able to do that anyway.
Right, I mean, knowing that it is going to be a cost that the town cannot cover, Holcomb
Right.
would have to,
Ante up.
build that into the funding. So I guess at this point, I mean, I appreciate Lana doing the work on this because it involved moving money around, creating new bank accounts and going through and kind of laying it out. And this is just kind of the condensed version of it, but she has a spreadsheet that lays out what's in each of the more restricted funds and did you do individual transactions for them to
I
really
did.
clearly delineate per
Right.
year what went
What-
into it
yeah.
based on the audit?
All right. He set up the funds. Don't let him fool you. He did.
It was
he did
team
some of the
effort.
work. Yeah,
Team
we were tag teaming it, trying to get through it all.
Thank you. Ken.
Yeah. So Elena, I don't know, do you have any other comments or things you want us to pay attention to on the budget, I guess?
I think so.
at
The
this
next,
stage?
the next meeting is our actual budget meeting. So I'll probably bring back these exact numbers unless something changes. And then, but we do kind of have the sort of the ongoing future of this entity. What makes sense to do? Given, yeah, and maybe we don't do AIM next year, but they are kind of a good, I wasn't sure if we should do them, but they are a good resource for my training, if nothing else.
Yeah,
But again, they have a required training I'm trying to get through. I'm never going to get through it this year. I just don't have time to do it, but
yeah. And
I'm doing what I can.
AIM was invaluable too, because if I didn't have their guidebook, I would have had no idea. Because when I had asked for guidance on, okay, what's going on with the town? What paperwork do we have? What resources? I got, oh, you don't need anything. So we would have really been up a creek without having access to their resources and everything. But at the same time, if we,
But it's like our entire budget.
right, it's most of our unrestricted budget at this point. So, all right, any other budget related discussion, comments, questions, concerns? Okay. All right, so then next item on the agenda, old business. I kind of alluded to it. I have not made any progress on this speed sign. One, because I had reached out to them multiple times and had stopped getting responses. But two, we had to divert attention away from other projects to really focus on some of the stuff we got back from the State Board of Accounts and all of the stuff that they had requested from us. So it's still on my radar, and not something that I've had a lot of time to devote to.
Would it be easier to pursue getting speed, not bumps, but what are they called now? The ones that aren't quite as. There's two kinds of speed bumps.
The humps,
The humps, yes.
speed humps.
Would that be easier to get than approval for a speed? sign?
I can't imagine that would be, I could imagine that would be harder
I would
to get a speed humps.
You'd be working on a city road.
And you got to pay people to
Right.
come do it.
Yeah.
Plus, I think that once, a long time ago, somebody suggested that and they said that this is a main street for emergency vehicles. And so it's not like in a neighborhood, and so they wouldn't approve that. Because it can slow the response.
That makes sense.
I mean, yeah, it sort of makes sense. I just remember that being talked about, but I have no idea if it's.
Well, they're gonna slow down to go around the curve anyway, unless they wanna end up on their side, so.
But even that, they barely slow down to go around that curve.
But is that a new 20 mile an hour sign I saw out there?
Oh, is there a new one?
Yeah. Cause wasn't it 30? Or it's 30 down here,
Yeah.
but they're
There's
around the
35
corner.
up there and 30.
But now
Yeah.
there's one that says 20,
Oh.
and it's a new sign, so.
Yeah, it's just for
somebody's
that
done
curve.
something.
Yeah. I don't know if that was new or not. I thought it was,
Is it at a yellow sign or a white sign?
Yellow.
It's just a recommended speed.
okay.
Okay.
And Larry had seen something in the Indy Star about some community action projects that were getting approved throughout the city. And Cold Spring had a little dot like something was happening, and we weren't sure if it was our speed sign, but then nobody has communicated with us if it has been approved. When I spoke with someone who came out to survey the land, they said, yeah, people are speeding. It makes sense to want a sign here. All we need is the information about the post. And then he gave me his name and his phone number. And then I responded to the email and included the information they wanted and reached back out a couple of times, and everyone stopped responding again.
Well, and because we're right next to it, the last couple of years, the traffic has become much heavier going down Cold Spring. There's a definite. Yeah, we had some friends over the other night who said, we were here 2 years ago and it wasn't noisy like this. Yeah,
Yeah,
so we talked about a speed bump or a traffic light at that intersection of 44th Street. But I think what would happen is people would come to a stop if they would put in a light, but then they would just slam on, they'd rev it up to get out of there and it might be even worse. It'd be like starting up with the 500, so.
Feeling out.
Feel it out, yeah. But there are a lot of the fire engines come through there, down 44th Street all the
Right.
time. Because they're coming down
From the
Kessler
back, yeah.
and from the back, and that's quite frequent.
Mm.
And the other thing I've noted are the bus drivers, the little yellow school bus drivers. They go so fast and they aren't slowing down around the curve, and that just sends me over. If I'm out, I look to see if there are actually kids in the bus. Or if the horse is going back to the barn, I'm not sure, but yeah,
That's scary.
it is scary. And you're back far enough, you probably don't see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
usually not, but if you do see that, you can get the number of the bus and report it to the.
If I could move fast enough.
Yeah,
And then maybe we need cameras instead of,
Yeah,
so we need the LPR cameras, the license plate recognition cameras for the
Yeah.
state. The state deal with it.
yeah. And so, I mean, maybe it is worth continuing to reach out to them to.
Yeah, I
figure it
think
out,
that
but-
we should definitely try to get the radar sign, especially since that seems to be an approved
Right, yeah.
item.
We can put up, I mean, again, because it's not in our right of way, but it is an approved item, I would guess. It would be fine. But. So,
Brad, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, difficult situation. The speed's pretty high, I can tell you that.
Yeah,
yeah, I can imagine.
Glad we have strong mailboxes because the wind almost blows them down. But
is there any way we can move the boxes back about 6 to 12 inches? So they're not so close to the road?
Yours
There's-
does move.
yeah. So I can tell you firsthand that experience. So the one at next door to us got hit twice within 6 months by a mirror and some other things. So we asked to have that moved back, and Rob was handling that at the time. And the mailbox company said, we cannot move it back without the permission of the postmaster. So I had to go down to the Mapleton station and show them what I say, here's what I'm asking to do. We're just wanting to move it a few inches back because it's so close and getting hit. And then they said, finally, say, okay, well, that's fine. And then there was never anything in writing, but the mailbox company wouldn't do it until, because the guy gave me his name and he said, okay, I'm the head person or whatever. So tell the mailbox company, my name, and that we've given permission to do that. And then they moved it back.
And I'm sure they don't want them too far off because then like in the winter, they can't get to them.
Mhm.
Yeah. It was just a matter of inches, but
Right.
How much did they charge to do that? Do you know?
I don't know, because he handled it with.
I bet it'd be
the company.
$200-300 because they'd have to come out and do it. They have to come out and send 2 people to come out and pull it
Right.
up, and it'd be easier to move it somewhere else
Yeah.
than it would to move it that way.
Well, and I've put in for a couple of repairs and they've come out and assessed the posts and said that the posts were rotting and so they would have to be replaced. And the mailboxes you can see out there are all banged up.
Right.
And to get the whole unit replaced, it was going to be almost $700 for them to come out and do it, which again starts very quickly eating into the funds that we have available for things.
Isn't that right away money?
Mailboxes aren't on here as something that we would be able to use that for.
Isn't there in the ETC or an example, it's just these are the only things?
Right.
Because I don't know that any other cities divvy mailboxes. Unless it's maybe the big ones like we have in the neighborhood,
Yeah,
but
potentially.
yeah. I mean, I've never lived where I've gotten a mailbox from the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's a bit of a mess.
So things to keep, yeah, so that kind of brings us around to the mailbox repair expenses. So in inquiring about them, I found out how much it would be to replace different parts of it, and the
Oh.
posts are by far the most expensive part. The mailboxes themselves are, if we would just go out and buy new ones and replace them ourselves, they're like $50, but to get the company to do it, it's like 115 or something.
Like,
Yeah, with labor, but even the amount they're charging for the mailbox.
I
is
assume we'd have to get the
about-
stickers then to put on the address.
Right, we would have to
stickers.
get those things
And
too,
we'd have to
which
do it.
is, yeah, and we'd have to do it,
Well, right now they're all uniform.
right? Yeah. So
Are we certain that the right of way is not part of our town?
I'm not certain, but the way I guess that I would read it with what is like included in our mileage is that we don't have anything. But I'm not sure. I mean, and this is where I'm no legal expert, or
It seems odd that they would give MBH money to
a
people
town
without,
roads.
yeah, like just
Right.
don't give it to us.
right, that's kind of,
Like-
I mean,
At some point, we just need to turn it back over to the state, let them go give it to somebody who can spend it.
right. Or
Like,
get
stop
counsel
it,
on
just
how to
Give it
do
to
it.
Windale and have Windale put up the.
But I don't know if Cold Spring is Windale. I think they would have to put it up in their town, which doesn't help us at all.
Oh, well.
It might be worth trying to find a legal person to know to whom the right of way belongs.
Yeah. Some
Brad, do you know anybody that could do that?
Now, usually right of ways from the center of the road to some point, and it varies. Depending on the type of road and how that was all plotted out. But I'm sure it's on the plot somewhere.
But I guess my question would be, is the right of way, because it is from the middle of the road to a point, it would still be under the purview of the people that own the road, not the town that the right of way is in.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
again, this is where I don't know anyone that's an expert on this, and we don't have like a legal counsel or on retainer or anything.
And when you have, once the right of way ends, then who owns that? Who owns the ditch?
Right.
Is that us?
Well, it would be
I
the
mean,
property
we
owners,
don't, we
right?
don't maintain it. Well, I'm thinking like along Cold Spring, we don't maintain that. The city would maintain that right away.
Yeah.
So I think.
But also if it's past a certain point, it's outside of Cold Spring or outside of Spring Hill also.
Right.
Because it just goes, I mean, there's like this really weird little strip, and again, it's hard to know what's actually part of our purview.
So who owns all the honeysuckle along the road?
The homeowners, I would guess.
I'm trying to figure out what we could get into the.
Right. And again, if it's not our right, and my guess is, right, the city of Indianapolis is not going to complain if we use funds to get rid of a bunch of honeysuckle, right? I don't think the city would be mad at us, but I don't know if it technically falls within our purview.
Yeah.
Well, we already paid for Dawson's removal through the Preservation Alliance.
Mhm.
Oh, was that how that was paid? for?
Yeah,
I
it
thought
was
maybe-
$500, I think. No,
Yeah, no, okay.
but they got, Ed or somebody got permission from him to do that. But then I see it's all growing
They all
back.
grew back.
Right.
So that was a waste.
Yeah.
There must be somebody in the State Board of Accounts office. I used to make multiple calls until I found somebody who knew something. But he could offer someone on their staff that could give you like a legal point of view, just so we'd be more comfortable. That it came from the state.
Yeah. That would be, yeah, I would feel much better if we had their blessing, I guess, on some of this information. The unfortunate part is I don't with working full-time, I cannot be reliable for making lots of calls to folks during the daytime. It really just isn't something that I'm able to do because then they call back when I'm with patients and it becomes really hard to navigate kind of day to day.
And then it's working full time.
Yeah, plus,
Plus.
Yeah,
yeah, the challenge is most cities have like full-time employees doing this stuff.
right.
Yeah,
So, so that's something that we'll have to figure out, I guess, at this point, because even when I put this agenda together, I wasn't quite sure how all of the budget stuff was going to pan out. But something we have to figure out how we're able, and we do have some money in the general fund, that isn't restricted that we can use for things, but that money isn't going to get replenished is where we're at with it, is that, it's not going to get higher than, $11,000 at any point, the way things are going. Okay. All right, so then other thing that was in this SBOA audit was on internal control standards. So one of the things that they made sure that they highlighted in every single bullet point was that we need internal control standards. The reason these other things aren't getting done is because there aren't internal control standards. And we didn't have any kind of like a guidebook or distribution of responsibilities or anything like that for the town. It had never been created that I'm aware of or, approved. So that was the book that I put together, not really a book, but the little information packet on different internal control standards. And did I print that out? Okay, I did
Yeah.
print out copies for folks.
I'll bet nobody at the state will even read this.
No, nobody
You could
cares. Most of
probably,
it
like,
is
you could be
copied and
digging into
pasted.
these and they would not know.
Sure, yeah. Most of it is just copied and pasted from the state guidelines. I mean, I didn't see any reason to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Because they're asking for certain requirements and we don't have anything stricter than what they're asking for. So I figured the bare minimum would be just fine. Part of that I sent out earlier in the year or the end of last year on the nepotism and contracting policy was something that they wanted everyone to have, signed off on. Along with that, they wanted to have internal control standards and a mandatory training for everybody that is involved in the government on internal control standards, which is then signed off on in a certification every year. So that is the later parts of this are so the early parts are more like the policies and guidelines or ordinances. The later parts are the internal control standards, which at this time it's mostly Lana and I as the town council president and the clerk treasurer, but also for the board itself, or I guess for the town council to have some standards in there as well. So laying out the responsibilities that the town council president has and that the clerk treasurer has so that there are checks and balances within the government and to be able to have some accountability for things if something goes awry, to be able to say, we were able to catch this because these processes were in place and to be able to give feedback, as part of maintaining the government. So I'm not sure. I know it's boring stuff to read, but did people have comments or thoughts on those internal controls?
Since we don't really have any employees, I mean, that's pages and pages of, who cannot do this and who cannot do that. Although the one that caught my eye was the wife of a sheriff can be a prison matron. It's in there.
Relevant. I mean, that's relevant to
It's a
us,
matron.
you
About that.
Yeah, I was just.
that was honestly put in there. That was a political thing that put that in.
Somebody, yeah. but
Right.
It was just,
Yeah.
if you.
Somebody had a wife, you needed more to do.
Or someone thought she needed more to do.
I.
I want to be the prison bitch.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And I mean, again, this is where most of this stuff really isn't directly applicable to us. And at the same time, every year we have to certify that people have,
Read it.
read it, have signed off on it, have been trained on these things.
Never done that. No,
Right.
never done that.
It's never been done. And I don't feel good about saying that it has been done if it hasn't, because
Right.
part of this mission process is that it has been done. or they'll come back and say, oh yeah, in our audit, we found that you aren't doing this. And then it's something that we have to say that that's the case.
It's not a lot.
Yeah, it's like a 20-minute video. It is the most boring 20-minute
Yes.
video that I have ever watched.
Yes.
And that is saying something. I've had a lot of VA trainings that are very boring, but it's rough, but it's doable. We just have to make sure everybody actually like watches it and signs off that they've watched it once a year to make sure that we're in compliance with what the SBOA wants on those things. So that's the one piece, is the certification part. The other part is actually having the internal control standards available in order to make sure that we're in compliance with having those and that there are checks and balances.
Should we put those on the website?
We can put them on the website. What
probably
I
should.
didn't want to do, so I guess one thing that I would say is that if we have any edits to make to the document that I sent out, that I would like to know what those are. If not, if there's any motion to approve the internal control standards, wanted to vote on that. So do we have a motion to approve, Nancy? Okay. Any second for that?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of approving the internal control standards as proposed?
Yes, you can have a prison position.
Any opposition to the internal control standards? No.
Nope.
Okay. All right, so we've got those approved. So with them being approved, I feel good about putting them up on the website. But didn't want to just go ahead and go rogue and say, oh yeah, I've made these internal control standards now that I'm implementing. All right. So then in moving forward on that, on the budget, the one thing that in reading more through the AIM manual and the internal control standards is that even though there aren't town council elections every year, once the town council is created, within the town council, a president is supposed to be selected from within the town council every year. So it's not an actual elected position, it's chosen from within the board. And so every year, there's the opportunity for the town council to like select a new president, that kind of thing.
I
So,
think the clerk treasurer is supposed to like read them in.
right,
But
yeah,
like a
there's
process that
there's
we've not done. yeah.
every one of us is supposed to take an oath of office, which
And you can
we,
administer the oath of office.
Yeah.
but we need someone to administer it to Lana too, because she can't administer it to herself, is one of the other
Can the-
stipulations.
Can the sheriff's wife do
Can
that?
the town mayor do that, or whatever you call it?
Yeah, so I would,
don't know.
it kind of says that it's supposed to be within certain people. So clerk treasurer is one, but other, I think like notaries and things, it really
we
doesn't
don't
say that
have-
the council can do it. But I'll have to, read up on it a little bit more. Again, this is where kind of tricky to know if we have any flexibility
The
within
whole
this or
board
not.
Do it too.
Right, yeah. And I guess if we do it in like a public meeting, that would be as
Yeah.
accountable as you can be for those things.
Yeah.
But yes, we are supposed to do an oath of office, like when we take the position, that kind of thing. So that is something that I have to see if there's like a boilerplate oath of office. I think there is somewhere, but I just have to find it so that we can all do that. Probably we need to do that sooner rather than later. Would be
And
important.
then do it again in January.
Right. Along with like the trainings, that kind of thing. So with that, I wanted to throw out there that because of how much time this has been taking lately, I do not think that I can do town council president again for another year. It's a lot of stuff that ends up taking hours and hours that I never know what it's going to be. And really, we're not getting a lot of guidance from anybody until it's like, well, we've got to do this. And then I don't have a lot of opportunity to make phone calls, that kind of thing. So I wanted to throw it out to the town council to see if others are interested in being the town council president so that we can talk about what that looks like for moving into next year.
I know, and I would say the same, like this is taking way more time than I thought it was going to. And I don't know that I'm on tilt right now. I'm on like 3 boards and working full time and this is a lot. I'm not sure that the value is there for my time.
Well, I think the worst is over. You've
Hope-
created the other
hopefully.
place that they want.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Things should probably fall into line a little bit better.
No, I think that's true. It's just that like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, how much time can I put in here for an $800 budget?
Right, which is kind of, the big question, I think, is like, how much time are we putting into this, which is maybe different. I mean, Rob did this for many years, and so some of that learned knowledge that happened at the beginning made sense, and he had time to kind of like just kind of roll with it so that it was easy enough that it didn't take up a lot of time. But with the stuff that we're having to get into at this point, it is taking
Well,
more time, I think.
I would say
than
that
expected.
in gratitude to both of you, and especially to you for all that you've done, it's, the reason it didn't take time is because it wasn't done.
Exactly right.
So,
Didn't do anything.
I mean, I, I feel guilty because I told you, I tried to get you to do this and I said, you know, it's not that big of a deal because we had no evidence of all of
Right.
this.
Yeah.
We knew, I had no clue. So it never has been done. So in, you know, that's, it's not fair to either one of you, but that it happened this way, but really appreciate
Well,
that.
it goes
you've
on. I mean,
got-
it's not,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
you
and
know,
not something,
your lives lost, but
right.
Craig and I are having fun together.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, I've learned, I
We
mean,
taught each other
the
a lot.
learning has been really interesting. And if it were something where I kind of knew ahead of time and if there was a little more structure in place in the transition process, I think it, you know, is not something that I'm like, oh, you hate some of the elements of it, but it is
You guys
just more
didn't
time.
got it, which is not expected.
Right.
Yeah, my challenge is the training. I have to take 8 hours of training a year and I don't have time. Like I'm trying to do it. It's 1 hour at a time and I'm doing it like I'm doing another meeting and I've got my training going on the
Yeah.
side. Like this is crazy. And then I'm paying for some of it.
Right.
It's- I'm never gonna get to I'm supposed to do 14 hours in my first year. There's no way I'm gonna ever get there.
Yeah.
I just don't have bandwidth.
Would you be
Yeah.
willing to take that on for a year?
I don't know.
And nobody has to make a firm decision like today at this meeting.
When does the election have to happen?
It doesn't have to be like, so I don't know, it would just be an election within our group.
Yeah.
It isn't like a big election
But I
because
mean,
the
is
town
it for
council.
next year?
Right, it would be for next year,
Oh,
so
okay.
we would just need to do it in one of our next two meetings, make a
Okay.
decision, so we have one in August and then one in October, I believe,
Mhm.
are our next meetings.
Let me think about it. Talk to Steve about it.
And I'm happy to, I mean, again, because I would still be part of the town council and part of what is in the internal control standards is that the president then helps whoever is taking on that position with any information to make sure that the transition process goes smoothly. So trying to figure that out, but yeah.
Okay, I'll think about it. Brad.
No,
Come to town and stay.
Or, and I guess this is the other thing that going back to the conversation about the budget earlier is that if this is something that after giving it some thought and everyone has kind of put their minds to what are we able to use these funds for, or are we not? And how much time are we willing to devote to this? Is it something that we continue moving forward, or do we look into what dissolution of the town would be and how to navigate that?
Some people looked into that years ago about the dissolution of the town, and it turned out to be more complicated than keeping it.
Staying up.
Right.
Yeah,
And
But at some point, if there's nobody on the council, like what are they gonna do?
right. And
They
that
say
I
you
think
have
is-
5 open positions.
yeah.
You're not gonna be hearing from us again.
right. Like, good luck. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
you know,
Close the bank account, send the money back. I mean.
yeah.
Right. And so that would be something we would have to look
we
into.
have to
but-
have Town meeting. Open town meeting where everybody can come and say yes or no and, you know,
We'll probably have to have an election,
yeah.
which means you have to put it on the slate for 2028 or something.
I think 27 is when our next
Mhm.
election is.
Yeah, that's probably,
Yep. So it would be a process, and at the same time, it's like, if we are so restricted in our funds, is that something that we do need to seriously consider, and what that mean, and how do we go about doing that kind of thing? So,
Right, and I just cannot take that on.
yeah.
I cannot take on dealing with the government on my Sunday afternoon.
Right.
I cannot.
Yeah, yeah, and again, you know, there's gonna be a certain amount of, if we had the time under our belts, it would maybe be a little bit different, but at least trying to get this all kind of
You said
feeling
you should
built
be
from the
mercy
ground
rate.
up. Yeah. If we don't find out anything else that we should have known in the first place.
Right. I know, we only know what we know.
Right. Uh, yeah. And my thought is too, right, which is kind of the approach I've been taking to this, is that if I'm going to do it, I want to do it right. And it's harder and harder to do it right, given the time commitment that it takes to do it right. Um,
Mhm.
all right. So, unfortunately, the next thing on there is about our centennial celebration, which feels a little bit, in terms of looking at our forecast and looking at our history. But I'm really excited about it. I do think it'll be really cool. Way to celebrate that Spring Hill has been around for 100 years. I was going to ask again, initially, this was before I knew kind of what our budget situation was about getting porta potties for the celebration because the town is, hosting it. It is part of like the town's history. Um, Porta potties, when I looked into estimates, were going to be somewhere around $500 to $600 to have 2 toilets and a hand washing station. I feel like I'm not sure how feasible that is with our budget or if it would be advisable to do that with the way things are, but wanted to make sure I did my due diligence because it was something that I had offered to do, was to talk about what the town could contribute, financially in terms of the celebration.
Um, Certainly for any of the Holcomb events, we haven't had porta potties. And I think the discussion was based on the fact that we were having outside people come. How many, do we know how many those are that are coming, and could we get somebody that lives down there to say, if somebody really has to go, they
Right.
can use my John.
Yeah. Which I'm happy to ask the folks along there to see what they would be willing to offer. It is a little different since none of them is actually the host of the event. In the past when Holcomb has done their pitch-in, they've been the host of the event. And so their bathroom was included in the venue
Yeah.
at that point.
What volume of people from outside Holcomb are you thinking about?
So I think we invited about like 15 to 20 additional people. Now, nobody has said that they are coming yet.
Okay.
And I've sent out a save the date and then an initial RSVP, and I was going to send out another today after this meeting since it's about 2 months out from.
Are you
the
sending it
celebration.
just to those people or to everybody?
So I'll send out an RSVP to the folks in the town, which I'm going to send out today too. I figured those were they were more likely to already kind of have a heads up of what was going on than, folks from the community like Butler and our town, or our city representatives, those folks that I invited.
And is that going to be a reservation for the tour as well as the attendance?
Right, there
Their
would be,
options of
yep,
thing?
options for the tour and for attendance for the pitch-in.
And you're gonna send them to, when you said Holcomb residents, you mean Holcomb to
Oh,
Holcomb Estate?
yeah, mhm.
So they have to respond.
Right, Holcomb, and then also the folks that live outside of
Okay,
Holcomb
cool.
in the town, everyone will get an Evite for that they can RSVP to, so we'll have a head count of who's gonna be in attendance and for both the tour and the
Like, there'd
pitch-in.
be a lot of outside people.
I doubt it's going to be a
I
lot,
would think that,
and at the same time, we still do need a place for, even if there's only one outside person and they have to go to the bathroom, we need to make sure someone knows that we may ask them to use the restroom.
well, we're close enough that we could do that, but I think we could probably get Brad Wood to, he's the closest right there. I'm sure he would be willing to do that, but I can't speak for him.
I
Well,
think he's
and if
happy.
not, we can use next door, I'm sure, so.
Oh,
Okay. So as long as we feel like we will have people to be able to offer their bathrooms, we'll just have a list of places that people can go and maybe I'll put together like a sign or something that we can put on those doors so that folks that may not know, like, oh yeah, the Howards have volunteered their house and they don't know who the Howards are.
they have to
Make
go
sure.
buy the dog first.
And the cat.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we won't do porta potties. We will do organized like where people can go to the restroom though. hopefully kicked us off of the meeting. See if Brad comes back here.
What's the date of that thing again?
August 22nd.
Okay,
Yep.
I seems like I saw a couple different dates.
Yeah, initially it was going to be in September and then
They got-
yeah, then we moved it a little earlier. That was on me because my sister's having a baby, and so I wasn't going to be able to make it if we did it in September. All right, do we have any other new business that folks would like to discuss?
I would just say about the centennial celebration that we have a meeting next Monday to finalize a lot of the plans. I think everything is coming along. I met with Susie this afternoon with the historical documentation. We've
Oh.
got all kinds of things assembled. She was meeting with Fritz later today.
Okay.
Other people are, is Brad still there?
I think it kicked all of us off and he has not
Oh,
rejoined
shoot.
me.
So I have to find out from him what pictures he has for that
Okay.
property, but she's going to make poster boards with all kinds of the pictures and narratives. And so I think that's all coming along well. We're gonna order brats and hamburgers. She actually has tables and chairs that she's going to offer as well. I know we've talked about that. And she said, I told her we were gonna grill on my grill. She said, oh no, our grill just rolls. We'll roll it over and do it right there. So I'm like, fine, if you
Yeah,
want it
that's
to.
how it works.
So
Makes it easy.
it's all coming
What
together.
about tables, folding tables for food to put the feet on?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're getting those lined up.
And we've got some, yeah, I've got folding tables. Barb Levy has some folding tables. So I've, asked around. We've got folding tables and Doran donated tablecloths, and we've got like plates and cups and those kinds of things squared away. And then I'll be
Are we
putting
gonna need
together a
any
tour
city
map.
money for this
So that's where,
or town?
yeah, I kind of feel like using the town money with as limited as it is, we're not going to. I didn't want to ask for any additional money at this point from the town.
Then again, go out with a bang.
Right. I mean, that's the other way of thinking about it is that, you know,
Not the big.
yeah.
$10,000 party.
I just kind of think that it is the celebration of the town.
Right.
And that the town should contribute something.
Yep.
I suppose the residents of the town are contributing, you know, Susie's doing a lot and you've done a lot. You know, maybe that's enough, but, I mean, I don't know. Who's gonna know who paid for what?
So the expenses I mean, it sounds like, I think before we talk the paper things and all that, you already have.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are those
So
people.
the only expense would be the purchase of the
Me,
meat.
Mhm.
And are we doing a pitch in then?
Yep.
yeah, full complete purchasing.
Yep.
And Barb's gonna wanna know who's bringing what, so we don't end up with 20 potato salads.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And I think we said we might get some bottles of wine and beer too, just to have. I
Yeah.
mean, people will bring their own, but if, again, with outside people, we wouldn't expect that they're probably
Right.
gonna bring.
And said that she has a collection of wines that have been brought to Pitchins in the past that she is going to contribute that she's been storing for
So
some
we don't
occasion.
need to buy.
Yeah,
that.
I think we should be okay with
John may have
buying.
some.
Yeah, I think Holcomb will be able to make sure we have plenty of wine to
Okay,
go around.
and I was looking into the meat, so.
Okay.
I was gonna get the brats at Clem's,
Okay, yeah, they're good.
yeah. And talk to Kincaid's about the hamburgers, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't buy hamburgers that are
They're awfully
already,
expensive, but
yeah.
might-
Where else would you?
they might give you a deal.
Yeah, I go there all the time.
Okay.
I'll talk to the guy.
Yeah.
Tell them what we're doing, see what they can do.
Maybe they'll donate something.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Invite them to,
Invite them.
invite them to the celebration.
Tell me about the sign, hamburgers donated by, give them some web space advertising.
Right. All right. So if there's no other new business, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So,
Second,
Second,
all right, and all in favor of adjourning the meeting?
aye.
All opposed?
nay.
All right. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you all. Bye. Ooh.
So y'all, are you coming next Monday?
Well.
Yes,
good
I'll-
luck.
yep.
But you bought, that's the trouble.
Got it on my list.
Well,
I'll have,
and I
Yeah,
just
because
don't
I
have
think
the
we'll be
bandwidth
able
that I thought
to,
I
Susie
did.
will be there for
I'm working
sure.
full time, plus I do,
So much.
plus I do
That's the
contract work
plan
on my
right
side,
yeah,
so.
and I've got a better
and I'm kind of on
inventory
other boards.
now than I had before of
Okay.
what we're getting from who and,
Yeah, it was really good this afternoon because we spent like an hour and a half
And
going
Bev,
over all
like,
the
you
historical
know,
stuff.
he'll
Very
do
cool.
the-
She's excited about it.
No, I
Yeah.
need to get on. Fringe
And she has
Business
somebody
at night.
here, she's putting together, you know, something called Canvas.
yeah. Mhm.
Okay, they're gonna use that. to
Oh, great.
Put together the displays and.
Be nice.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah,
So
that'd be great.
That's good.
Good, good.
Okay. Thinking if there's anything else.
Feel free to take these with you, with papers. Okay, good.